Hello everybody, Nero here with another Shadowverse Worlds Beyond video. And first off, I just want to thank you guys for the support on the previous video. I want to follow it up since I know that providing you guys with decks isn't gonna be like the only thing that I could do to help you guys climb the ladder and like farm your resources to get the decks that you like. I figured it might be a really good thing to give you guys some tips as well to climb the ladder. Recently, I got to Diamond, and to be honest, I didn't expect to get that. But since I got here to Diamond and I played like a decent amount of really good players, there was a lot of things that I've noticed that they do, and there's a lot of things that I learned that, like myself, right? The things that I did that got me into Diamond in the first place. And that's what we're gonna talk about in today's video. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So the first tip that I will give you guys is a general mindset that you guys need to have in order to win games in Shadowverse Worlds Beyond. Number one is going to be understanding that this game is a resource game. So your cards are a resource, your HP is a resource. So the reason why I pointed that out is because it should give you a general idea on how to use your cards, right? No matter what like craft you are, you need to understand whether you're a combo deck or a control deck or an aggro deck, that like getting value out of your cards and value out of your own HP at times will be key to getting advantage over somebody. Now, I will elaborate more on this on tips going forward, but for now, that's the type of mindset that you need to have. Tip number two is kind of like a follow up from tip number one with the mindset that I told you about. And it's do not overcommit and don't be afraid of losing the early game. Now you're like, wow, wait, this is kind of like a control thing, right? Like mid range and aggro actually can apply this concept as well. Because if you make a board that you know won't deal damage to the face because of a certain card that they might have, then you're like wasting resources, you're wasting cards. And typically, you don't want to be in the spot where you use a bunch of cards, then suddenly like you have two cards, the enemy has five, and then they just like counter like three cards that you just played with one card, right? See how like the mindset like goes into this? Like you want to use your cards efficiently, effectively. If you are something that plays like a deck that plays aggressively, you want to bait out resources from somebody and then like keep putting up the pressure. And if you're control, of course, you don't want to use all your board wipes just because somebody played like two cards, right? Use your HP as a resource. Try to get the most value on your cards as much as you can. And that may also include skipping turns just to do that. Of course, skipping turns is not always the best move, but sometimes it is the best move. That will just come down to your experience on what craft you're playing and what matchups you're playing. Learning that is gonna be like a case-to-case basis. But yeah, that's the general concept of it. Like any type of deck that you're playing, you want to make the most and don't overcommit, don't get baited. And also don't be greedy, right? I've seen a lot of people like play in this way where they just hold their evolve, they just hold their super evolve, and I'm like, yo, dude, you are in lethal range, you know, like you're gonna die next turn. And they just like, oh, but I'm outvaluing you in cards and outvaluing you in evolve points, and then they just die having all those resources without getting to use them. So yeah, you need to find a balance with that. And in general, right, like no matter what deck you're playing, this concept has to be like something that you have to consider moving forward. So tip number three is about knowing your matchup and knowing what cards to look out for and what cards to bring. Now, let me give you an example. Apollo. Now, you might be thinking, oh, yeah, Apollo, it's a neutral card. It does one damage to the board, like, and one damage again if you evolve it. What's so good about it? Apollo literally just clears any early game board. So why do I mention Apollo? Because remember the tips that I gave you previously? This is one of those cards where it puts you in a spot that makes you think, okay, do I use Apollo on this board or do I use Apollo on the next board? What are, like, can Apollo even clear the board that he's gonna build next turn? Or like, do I have to save this in combination of another card and all that? You get me? Right. Knowing like what cards to look out for and what key cards to bring against certain matchup, it matchups are like very important in this game for like a lot of token based decks that like to curve. Maybe it's forest, maybe it's sword, maybe it's aggro abyss, right? Like Apollo is something that I think most decks should have. I've even seen some rune lists run it. That's how good it is. So yeah, if when in doubt, this like you want to use like you want to be able to use cards like this, not just Apollo, but other cards as well. I'm not gonna mention every single one of them, of course. So, not just you bringing cards and opponents like bringing like those cards as well. It's about knowing the decks of your matchup as well. So, let's say you're fighting Sword and they have a one drop. What that typically means is they're fishing for an aggressive curve. They're not necessarily aggro, but they might be fishing for an aggressive curve. So what you want to do is avoid that from happening, or avoid that, like avoid the turn that nets them a really unmanageable board. Let's say with the sword matchup I just mentioned, avoid them having a really strong turn 4 Zirconia. Or in Abysscraft, right? Like if you see a 1 drop and then a 2 drop that's a 3/3, then you're fighting aggro. From there, you suddenly have to understand that, oh, this guy's playing this deck. I have to play defensively. Like I can't. It's okay to commit my board clear, and if I have multiple board clears, you can even like get away with using it very lavishly. You can just like slam it. Like with that said, how about the other decks? Let's say the OTK decks and the control decks. How do you know if how do you know if they're those type of decks? Well, a good way to know it right away, besides just experience, like I would say in higher elo, it's easier to find out just because like everybody in higher elo just runs like very similar stuff. But like from wherever you are, like like typically when somebody does a 1 2 3 curve, they're more of the aggressive deck, right? That's the educated guess like you would probably like do. The rest is gonna be like depending on what their craft is, right? Like what key cards they will be like using, what specific turns. Like for example, Dragoncraft has Forte, right? So if they have Forte, like you have to save a destroy if you don't have any ways to like deal with it on the board. Let's say your Swordcraft, you have to save a destroy, you have to save a Valse, stuff like that, right? So yeah, I know this section is kind of complicated and there's a lot of nuance to it, but I'm just trying to like teach you guys the concept and teach you guys the mindset so you can like make your own decisions in the game and improve yourself. All right, I'm just pointing you in a direction basically. All right, now let's get into some stuff that I know a lot of you guys expect to see in this video. Super Evolve. There's multiple ways to use Super Evolve, but generally there's like 2 ways of approaching the Super Evolve usage. One of it is using it aggressively in a way that it pushes damage and would be hard to counter even with a Super Evolve. Like an example would be for sword. I'm gonna use this example because that's what I use. Amelia plus the magistral mage, right? Like when you put Amelia and then that card, even though you are going to super evolve first, it is a board that's really hard to deal with. So it's a situation where you don't really feel bad about using super evolve first, and it kind of like pushes your opponent to use theirs as well. You get me? So this type of like super evolve usage aggressive is fine too. But of course, like be wary about what counters that might come. And that's what we're gonna talk about next, is using it defensively. Alright, so using it defensively is in a way that you're matching somebody's super evolve to get more value. So typically the guy that super evolves second is on advantage, but that depends on like the situation. Like what are your HP bars? What is the board state, right? How many cards do you have left? This is where the resource battle like concept just is elaborate. Like the resources have to be used properly. Like don't overcommit, don't get baited. It applies at any like phase of the game actually. In late game though, the super evolve phase, like this is the part where you're looking to finish the game or looking to disable somebody's win condition. All right. When you manage to do that, you'll just win more games straight up. Okay, for my fifth tip, it's going to be about the things that I just mentioned, the finishers and the super evolved counters. Your endgame cards will either be cards that will counter super evolved or a gold super evolved card. Now, typically a good super evolved card are cards that have super evolved effects with them. For example, the easiest one I could think of, since it's a neutral card as well, is Olivia, right? It gives you 2 super evolves in one. Like Olivia is a card that either baits somebody super evolved to clear if you didn't super evolve her, or like it forces the enemy to use a super evolve like a super evolve just to counter the board that you just made with her. Super evolving isn't the only way you counter super evolved turns. Another way to counter them is by using cards that have specific effects to bypass the fact that they're really strong at the board or they're buffed like to really high stats. Now, what are those super evolved like counter effects that you should look forward for? So let's say you're going into super evolved phase and you have cards that have destroy, that have bane, that have banish, cards like Geno, where every time you attack, like you get a barrier and it's 7 damage, and most of the time units are 7 damage, like 7 HP and above. So cards like this are really strong in the super evolve phase just because of the fact that it allows you to counter somebody's super evolve without using your own. And if you're put in a situation where I'm gonna bait this guy super evolves and then I'll use mine, that's typically like the way you want to do it. But of course, like you can also do this thing where you make them feel comfortable about using their last super evolve because, oh, yo, I don't have super evolves anymore, and then you just have like 10 ways to destroy the super evolve unit. You get me? Don't rush the fight and strike when the time is right. Like just because somebody's using a legendary, like a lot of legendary cards, doesn't mean they have the advantage over you. A lot of times it's the usage. It's the usage of the cards and the resources that will like net you like better results. So yeah, use your finishers. Look for lethal windows during this time. Like use your super evolves like properly. It's a mind game, and make sure to win that mind game, boys. So for my final tip, it's just a little thing, right? Most of the stuff that I want to tell you guys, I've already said. Probably forgot some stuff, but I'll probably feature it in future videos. So don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Smiley face. And the last tip that I will give you guys is have fun, like improving, have fun with the process, and don't think too much about the concept of real decks. You know, like, oh, this guy has a real deck because he has a bunch of legendaries. Oh, this guy, I can't beat this guy because he has legendaries and all that. That type of mindset will only hold you back, and it will only delay like the fact that your deck of your dreams earlier sooner than like later. You get me? I want you guys to get good, not in a toxic way, but I want you guys to self-improve. Yeah, that's my final tip for you guys. Having legendaries is definitely an advantage. I'm not gonna deny that, right? It's definitely an advantage. But in the end of the day, pilot that played worse would still lose games. And I think I've proven that multiple times in the ladder, especially this early into the game. This early into the game, a lot of people don't even know how to play the game yet. So them net decking like a tier 1 deck from a Japan site doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, they'll beat you. They might know they might know what's the BIS cards, what's the BIS craft to use and all that. But like in the end of the day, they still have to execute, and you have to execute as well. And while they might have advantage over you in terms of like what gun they have, right? If they aim poorly and you aim better, right? Your shot, even though it's a pistol and they have an AK, you can still like, you know, beat them. Yeah, I know that fun comparison's kind of like weird, but hey, that's how I look at it, man. You know, like you can have a better gun than me, but if I aim better than you might still lose to me. And you're gonna have to play like that if you're free to play until you get a gun of the same caliber as your opponent, or like a deck, right? In this sense, right? That's gonna be the video. Like, enjoy the process and improve, everybody. It's a competitive game after all. It's a PvP game. So, you know, approach it with the mindset of self-improvement. Approach it with a mindset of, you know, being better, right? Not just being better against like the random opponent you just got, but being better than the previous version of yourself. And that's what makes PvP games so fun. I'm gonna see you in the next video. And if you guys wanna see me stream, I stream on twitch.tv/lnerotv. And I hope you have a nice day. Thanks for watching the video. Bye.